Welcome to Dolby Creator Talks. This is a show about how artists use technology to tell their stories, and I'm your host, Glenn Kaiser. If you've ever wondered what it takes to make and then get your first feature film into the Sundance Film Festival, you might find today's conversation enlightening and hopefully inspiring. Today, we are once again joined by our good friend, Sundance alum, and Dolby Creator Lab grant winner, Carlos López Estrada. He's back with another of his outstanding satellite sessions. This one was recorded in front of a live audience at this year's Sundance Film Festival back in January. We're so excited to bring another of these conversations to you thanks to our ongoing collaboration with Antigravity Academy and CAPE, the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. Today's panel features 5 first-time filmmakers who have accomplished what may be every filmmaker's dream, landing a feature film debut at the Sundance Film Festival. And they graciously joined us to offer some insights into how to navigate the first-time filmmaker experience at the festival, as well as how they overcame the challenges of getting their films made in the first place. Here's Carlos.
My name is Carlos López Estrada. I'm a filmmaker. I'm the founder of Antigravity Academy. We're a production company and a talent incubator celebrating our 2nd year. And we're very happy to be back here. We did this panel last year, and it was, I think, one of the most meaningful things we've done. Seeing filmmakers that are about to premiere their first feature and show it to audiences from around the world is a very special thing. So thank you for being here. Okay, let me introduce these incredible people. As you know, Sundance is really sort of like a dream for most filmmakers. I was lucky enough to premiere my first movie here in 2018. And I will never forget that whole experience, but that night particularly. And it's really hard to put into words what it feels like to do something that you love and just bring it into an audience of strangers that are hopefully going to be moved by it. It's a really miraculous thing. So please help me welcome Ava Victor, a writer, director, and actor. The New York Times called a magnetic performer whose motor mouth characters evoke the comedic anxiety of Rose Chass cartoons.
Got it.
Yeah, thank you. Victor is starring in their upcoming directorial debut, Sorry Baby, an independent feature produced by Pastel. Hello, Ava.
Hey.
Next we have Joel Alfonso Vargas. Joel hails from the Bronx, New York. Since beginning his career, he has directed a breadth of films that intersect documentary and fiction cinema. His work centers on collaborating with marginalized communities and on exploring idiosyncrasies of urban life. Mad Bills to Pay is his debut feature. Hello, Joel. Next, we have Cole Webley. Raised alongside 5 brothers in rural Washington, Cole spent his childhood watching movies and attending wrestling tournaments. Amazing. None of his 3 daughters or son wrestle, but they share his love for movies. After film school, 7 short films and 100-plus commercials later, Omaha is Webley's feature directorial debut, which premiered last night. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we have Katarina Zhu, a filmmaker and actor based in New York City. Bunnylovr is her debut feature. Previously, she was selected as an inaugural fellow of the Women in Film Shorts Lab, supported by Google. Her short film, Silver Lake Cleaners, premiered in the 2022 New Hampshire Festival. She graduated NYU's Tisch School of the Arts with a BFA in acting. Welcome.
Hi.
And last but not least, Sierra Falconer, a Michigan-raised, Los Angeles-based screenwriter and director. She holds a BFA in film theory from Wesleyan University and an MFA in film directing from UCLA. Sunfish and Other Stories on Green Lake is her featured directorial debut and also her master's thesis from UCLA. Incredible. Thank you all so much for coming. I know that you have crazy schedules, and it's very special to have you all 5 here. Just to start off, I know that it's easy to go on the Sundance website and read the synopsis to your movie, and some of you have artist videos, but would love to hear from a slightly more personal place just what each of your stories mean to you and how they came into existence. Should we just do it? You look like you don't want
Sure,
to start. You
I'll
want
go
to start?
first.
Okay, we'll go.
I want to start, but I can tell it's a line thing.
Yeah.
My story is a very personal story. It's about a character who something really bad happens to, and she is trying to heal from it. And it's about that feeling when you feel really stuck and the world around you feels like it's moving on without you. Come see it.
Yeah, cool. My film, it was just sort of like this opportunity to go back to my hometown and tell a story about where I grew up with some nice people that I met at film school. It's not like super deep. It is sort of about like coming of age as a young man of color, and I think that's like a very personal like subject to me. But yeah, it's just like we just had a lot of fun making it, and it was really hard.
Did you guys all write your movies too?
Yes.
I think I'm the only one up here that came upon my script and directed it, for a script by Robert Machoyan, who'd been to Sundance a couple years, and I got to know him because he's also a Utah native, or lives in Utah like me. So I had a different relationship to my script because it came to me, I found it, and then we shot, we changed it a little bit, but it was really came from Robert. But what turned me so on to this story is that it was about fatherhood, and that it really anchored down onto that specificity of, like what lengths you would go to do like whatever was best for your kids, and that's kind of the danger of this film. And so I was a dad at like 21, 22, so I've been doing that a minute, and I was like, that just that simplicity of it was enough for me to really, really, really like dig the script. And it was just such great writing. If you guys ever see The Killing of Two Lovers, Robert was here a few years ago. Incredible talent.
Beautiful.
Similar to Ava, I think my film is a very personal film. But what it boils down to is it's a story about a young woman, a young, lonely woman looking for validation, love, and connection in probably not the right places. And it's also, there's a relationship within the film between this young woman and her father that's based off of my relationship with my dad, which is that we're estranged. We have been for 15 years, so.
Much like Joelle, my film is also a hometown story. I grew up in northern Michigan and spent summers on Green Lake, and so the film is a portrait of Green Lake told through various perspectives and interwoven stories that all take place over one summer, all on and around the lake.
Beautiful. I think one of the things that's so special about this panel is because it's people premiering their first films. It's a collection of people from very different backgrounds that are all sort of like coming together here in this place and time. Can we just talk a little bit about your trajectory leading up to your first film? Some of you are performers, some of you are editors, some of you are doing short form. So if you want, Sierra, we'll go in reverse order. Just how your previous personal and professional experiences led to you being able to make your first film.
Great. I never know how to answer questions about background because I feel like I don't have much of a background. I'm just starting. So I made this film in school, and this is kind of my first film coming to a festival. So it's very exciting. And I think a lot of my background and what I'm interested artistically all comes from where I grew up and the lake and the place. And so I tried to put a lot of that into the movie. I guess I did some shorts in film school. It was COVID film school, so a lot of iPhone stuff in my apartment with Barbie dolls and Grant, my husband. So, yeah.
Has it happened often at your film school that films premiere at Sundance?
This will be the first feature in the dramatic competition.
That's amazing. Congrats.
So I went to NYU for acting, actually. I got my BFA in drama, and while I was there, I started auditioning professionally my sophomore year, and a lot of the stuff I was going out for, I just really was not resonating with. And I also wasn't getting booked for anything. And so I think I had a lot of friends in the film program, and they were sort of like, well, why don't you just write something for yourself, and we can help you make it. And I feel like that it was sort of, like I started to write and direct out of necessity almost. But then I realized how much I love all of those roles in equal measure, like writing, directing, and acting. And so I did a couple short films, and then the next logical step felt like a feature. So yeah, I think acting brought me to writing and directing through that channel.
Amazing.
Not an actor, apparently not a writer, but I do love directing, and I have spent 15 years building and doing commercials and short films, and I went to film school, and I got corralled into this great class where they paired up film directors with ad students, and I did some spec work there. And, at that time, some of my peers were making really low, micro low-budget movies, and they just were, not happy. And I thought, well, I could do that, or I could maybe just, chase this commercial thing for a minute. And I said, I graduated film school with 2 kids. So, I had mouths to feed, you know what I mean? So I did the commercial thing, and meanwhile, was making short films all along with my producer. Always with an eye towards making my first film, and also helped my industry lean into long form stuff. I was getting commercials that were really short films, and that was exciting. But this was always the plan. It took a little longer than I wanted to, but it was worth the wait.
Are your kids here?
So yeah, all 4 of my kids were at the premiere last night. My daughter is now a freshman in college, so
wow.
She was stoked. She's studying stage management, so that's exciting. I just sent her a picture of Cynthia from Wicked because we were doing press together,
Love it. Joe?
Yeah, I got my start in documentaries initially. Then I went into cinematography for a bit when I lived in New York. And along the way, I got plugged in with the Tribeca Film Institute, and I was at the time making these sort of small profiles about documentary style profiles about subway car dancers, light feet dancers. And so I wrote a screenplay about these light feet dancers that was supported by the Film Institute, Tribeca. And then things were kind of shaping up. And then COVID happened and everything ground to a halt and fell apart. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? So I came across the National Film and Television School in the UK, their website. I was kind of a bit desperate, what do I do? I have no money. Anyway, I applied 2 hours before the application closed and I got in. So I ended up at the National Film and Television School. And that was 2022 to 2024. And basically the film that's here, Mad Bills to Pay, was kind of made off the back of my graduation film. So we made a feature film kind of low key and submitted the first act as because the school wanted a short as the graduation film, as a thesis film. So we submitted the first act as the graduation film, whilst we had shot a whole feature
Oh, you had
film.
already shot it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that was kind of the journey. But in its aesthetic, it's sort of a lot of single setups, stationary camera work, and that comes from I'm really, at least in kind of the development of the visual language, we weren't really looking at cinema so much. We were really looking at photography. So a lot of there's a very photographic quality to it, and I think my background as a cinematographer also really helped shape that. But yeah.
Wow. Ava?
Yeah, I was making 1-minute comedy videos online, and I was acting in a TV show at the same time. That was like a drama, and COVID kind of halted everything that I was doing, and I was in this like really sad apartment that had one window in New York, and I kind of fell in love with movies. I kind of gave myself this like film like crash course and watched a ton of stuff and fell in love with it. And then this story had been something that I wanted to write but couldn't really find the words for. And finally, I think after conversations with my producer Barry, like there was some I felt like, okay, I can direct this, I can make this, but it took a long time. Like I kind of had to isolate myself and write it. So I started in comedy, then I sort of tried to write a feature and fell in love with movies, and then got to make one, and it's like my life is a dream. That wasn't really what you asked, but I gave you an answer.
That was exactly what I asked. Well, speaking about your producer Barry, we'll go that way again. If you can tell us a little bit about the journey to, on a slightly more practical way, now that you had the idea or the script or the feeling behind the thing that you were trying to do, how did the pieces come together to actually make it happen? We'll start with you again.
Oh my God, cool. Yeah, I had a meeting with Barry, who ended up producing the movie, and in it he was like, your comedy videos, you're directing those, so whether you think you're a director or not, you're directing. And I was like, what? That's awesome. And what do you mean?
Is it okay to share Barry's last name? Because I think
yeah, of
it's
course, Barry
context.
Jenkins, fucking awesome, like hero, best guy ever. And he kind of like planted that seed in my head, and I went away and wrote this script in private. And because he had this like he had this sort of like belief in my ability to do something, or saw something in a really different version of it in me before I could. After I wrote this script, I sent it to Pastel, which is his production company, because I felt like a connection of like, he sees me as a filmmaker, and that was hard to come by at the time. Like, people really saw me as like doing 1-minute bits online, and I was really grateful for that sort of belief in me. So I sent it to him, and I mean, having a production company like Pastel backing me practically is like the thing that shifted everything, because they have a track record with first-time filmmakers, and they're just extremely passionate, and they know how to get shit done when like they know the holes in my knowledge and how to help me fill them. So that was the practical, like, okay, we're making a movie, was obviously adding like a baller producer team. Yeah.
Amazing. Joel.
Cool. Yeah, so everything kind of, as I mentioned, came from or off the back of the graduation film. So initially there was just a lot of support at the school, and I met most of my crew at the school. That's how I linked up with my producer, my cinematographer, editor, so everyone, we were all students basically. And we had a very tiny amount of money that it's just almost like a miracle that we were able to make a feature with that. Like, but you know, coming from New York, and I'd made so many films in that city before, I kind of had somewhat like of a guerrilla infrastructure in place. So I really knew like where to get cheap catering, for example, or like, you know, how to like, you know, it's just like kind of the hustler mentality. So like I kind of brought that to the production together with Paolo, who produced some things in Italy. Paolo's the producer, by the way. And it was just kind of like a great team. So production was 16 days. We shot like 100 scenes. Like, it was madness. And, you know, super guerrilla style, like stealing shots on subways and like, you know, pizzerias and like all different, you know, it was madness. But we got through it. And then on the other side of things, obviously, like, we just had no money for post because we blew it all on production. And off the back of graduating the school last February, there's a sort of thing where like the school takes you around different like agencies in London and you meet like all these different reps. But anyway, I got connected with Liam, who's in the audience, and he was basically like sort of like the angel of this thing, because he kind of then connected us to so many people with resources and money, and we were able to get some good post money, and that took us through like post production and we music licensing and all that. So like that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
It's a beautiful movie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, not unlike everybody probably on this stage, it was like a grassroots labor of love, independent cinema. I was in a dark room in 2020 sitting at Sundance, and I saw a film called The Killing of Two Lovers. And I was like, holy cow, this movie is so good. And then I found the filmmaker, Robert Machoyan, who I had mentioned, writer-director, lived in Utah. And I was flabbergasted, I guess, that I didn't know him. And so I immediately hired Robert, made him my friend to do a rewrite on a script I'd been writing for a while. And in that time, I said, do you have anything you've written that you haven't made? Because like maybe I'll just do that. And he gave me a script called Nebraska. You can imagine why we changed the title. He had written it before, Alexander, whatever. But he gave me this script, and I read it, and I was like, holy cow, that's going to make a great movie. Okay, so I love what's happening on page 35 of our rewrite. And I gave the script to my producer, and my producer's like, holy cow, I'm going to make this movie. And I was like, wait, what? You're going to make that movie? No, I'm going to. And then this is, if you have a good producer, this is how you have a good producer, Preston Lee. He said, dude, this is your first movie. Like, look at this script. And I had my eyes like on this. I had written this like story that it was write what you know. It was like these brothers who grow up on a farm, and it was like Robert had done a great rewrite, but it was growing, It kind of outgrew the first movie size. And here comes a script with a father and two kids on a road trip. And we thought, well, that'll be easy. Let's just throw a dog in the mix too. And let's shoot a bunch of process trailer. And so I went back and I watched the movie. I read the script as though I was going to direct it, and it was like it completely changed my view of it overnight. I read it as a writing sample and being like, wow, dude, Robert writes such great like dialogue in this script. So then that was like March of 2023, and we decided to go full throttle on that. And then boom, the strike happens. But we just kept shooting commercials, so because we self-funded our movie. And we just kept shooting commercials and kind of filling the coffer. And then we went into production in like August. We shot 27 days because my two leads were 8 and 6 years old, which, 4 hours and 6 hours on set. So like I always tell everybody, we shot our movie in 18 days, but we really shot 27. Shot the movie, and then I really called on all these favors that I had built over 15 years for commercials. My editor just did the movie for free, and his post-production company handled the movie for free. You mean these are like people who like we bring a lot of business through their doors, but nonetheless like that's so amazing, and they just wanted to be part of a great script. And of course we couldn't have dreamed of premiering here, but it happened. So we're here. So that's how we got to production, self-funded. That's how I found the script.
Wow. Katarina?
Yeah, for me, I sat down and got out a first full draft of the script in also March 2023. And from there, it was me, my manager, my amazing manager, Anna, and then one of my best friends from NYU, Rachel Sennett, taking out the script to everybody and anybody to be like, will you give us money? Will you produce it? Will you whatever? And that was for a couple of months, and it was like pushing the boulder up the hill, and it was like nobody was really biting, and it was like, oh, we love this, but we just, we have too much on our or whatever. And then I think there came like a breaking point where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, no matter what, I'm gonna shoot June of 2024. Like I'm just tracking towards that date. We're gonna task catch and DP like crew, and we're gonna find the money somehow. And then we started to slowly attach cast and crew, and then we had a one of my producers, Roger, came on almost a year ago to the day, like January 2024, he came on. And then Rachel introduced us to this production company, Neon Heart Productions, which they executive produced Shiva Baby, which was one of Rachel's first films. And from there, that's when they came on for the first like chunk of financing.
When was that?
That was May 2024. And then we shot this August. And
That's crazy.
yeah, it was really quick.
Wait, you wrapped in August of 2024?
We wrapped August 23rd. Yeah. I'm like not here. I'm like not in my body at all. I'm like on another planet. But no, I mean, it's surreal. It's a dream come true. Yeah, and we shot 15, 16 days. So it's been like a total sprint, but obviously like, again, a dream come true. After Neon Heart came on, that was like a cosign, and then we were able to get the rest of the financing from various like independent financiers. But yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
You'll sleep in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, so the film came through UCLA. They highly discourage feature film. But the one thing I knew when I was thinking about what I wanted my thesis to be was that it needed to be set where I grew up and like shot in these cottages. And we put a budget together, and because the locations were free, the accommodations for all the team was free, but I was flying out my film school team. It wasn't really that much more expensive just to stay extra days. Once we were all there, the biggest cost was the travel. So I was like, I need to do a feature, and the film is a collection of shorts. And so I think the way that I pitched it to the school was, if we can't find the money or, something happens, we'll just shoot the first one. And, they all sort of stand on their own legs, but I like to think when you put them together, they equal more. But so then it was like, okay. So we needed to get a producer. I brought my husband, who also is from Northern Michigan. We met in high school sweethearts. He produced the film, had never produced before. He has an economics background and is very technical, so he handled all of the technical financials. And then we got everyone out there. We shot in summer of 2023, and right before we started shooting, SAG went on strike. And so it felt for a few days there, the crew was already out and our talent was about to fly out, but they couldn't. So we were calling SAG, 50 times a day, just waiting for us to get the waiver. And then we got it the day before cast was gonna fly out. So for a few days there, it felt like it wasn't going to happen, and I couldn't not shoot the movie because if I didn't shoot it that summer, I wouldn't have graduated. So, and I think I just called SAG and was like, "This is a student film." So we were one of the first people to get a waiver. We were so lucky there. And yeah, we finished. I had a screening when I graduated this summer, and then sat on it for a little while, and now we're here.
Wow. How are y'all feeling? Because you all seem so cool and collected.
No, we were talking about how
freaking
nervous
the fuck
we were.
out.
Really?
Back there, we were like,
You were
it was actually really comforting this is like our first time all meeting each other. And it was really comforting to like be back there and be like, what are you going to say for your intro? Like, what did you say for your intro? And like, yeah, it's really.
You all seem like you're keeping it together pretty well.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
I think, right, y'all? Like,
Yeah.
But how, I know it's just started, but what are the feelings going on in your head and like?
Well, I just asked him. I premiered last night.
Yeah, so you're
So
on the
I'm
other
probably
side.
the only one that's been that baptism by fire. And I was telling my wife, like I said, I live here. So last night I went home, slept in my own bed, and like all my family was there. I was raised with 5 brothers, so like my family's so tight. Check this out. 12, what is it? Like 5 brothers, 5 sister-in-laws, and my mom and dad flew from Washington State, and I had to get them like all tickets to the premiere. So like once I got past that, wrestle and getting everybody and making sure, and my in-laws were in town, you know what I mean? To me, I had gotten such good advice to just like freaking enjoy it and don't just like enjoy it, be so present. And so I've been taking that. I mean, today we're doing press and all that stuff. And I was literally like, just like, wow, these photos look really good of me. Like, these guys are professionals.
You will never look as good as you do in these.
I know. I'm like, shit, I don't need an Instagram photo anymore. No. But then coming in here and seeing everybody here, like, when do you premiere and everything, and just like ripping that Band-Aid off and knowing you're in a room with people who want to love your movie, and you're all here because you love movies. And this festival, I can tell you, is unique in that it so honors the filmmaker. And I know anywhere I go else I go with the film, it's going to be a little bit of a disappointment. So for me, it's just been like live in the moment and freaking enjoy it. And we're all like giddy.
Yeah, I feel like it's like, I think we all feel like we sort of won the lottery. And so I feel like the prevailing feeling is like one of gratitude, like walking down the street, my like fingers are like freezing off, but I'm just like so like happy, just like really excited and like happy to be here, but obviously nervous.
I feel like you like my experience so far is you write like or you read this thing or you write this thing and it's like this desperate private thing of like screaming like I'm here, can anyone hear me? And that's such a private, painful thing when you're writing or when you have something to say. And then it's this completely euphoric thing of like, and totally terrifying thing of like, okay, so I screamed and there's going to be a group of people who are about to hear my scream. And it's like blissful and terrifying. And like, I also feel like I have altitude sickness based on like, since I've been on the stage, I'm like, woo, like getting a little drunk. But I don't know, it's a totally bizarre, like new thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, ditto. Like, it's been, yeah, just like this kind of pendulum swing of like extreme introversion and extreme extroversion. Like when you're writing, like it's just it's such an isolating thing, and like when you're like in the mix, and I was in the mix, like I delivered late, I guess. I mean, I think we all did, but like we were in the mix just like last week, and that was just like so intense, and now to be here, and it's just like, oh, now you have to like sort of like network and be like super bubbly, and it's just like,
you don't have to network.
Yeah.
you get networked.
You don't have
too.
to. You
No.
don't have to. Yeah, but like you're at we're at Sundance and we're trying to make the most of it. Like so it's just honestly I think it's still sinking in. Like it's great to be here. I mean, long story short.
Sierra, anything?
Yeah, I went to Cole's premiere last night, and I just am so glad that I did because it made me feel a lot less nervous and a lot more excited to just see some of the movies that are here. And I mean, it was a great film, so, and thank you. And just to see someone else do it, so if you guys have time, go see some films. But it's so busy, and it's such a big opportunity that it's just very nerve-wracking to make the most of the time that we have. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
So happy you're all here. I don't know if there's a fair question to ask because I think you have probably so many things swimming in your brains. But as you look back at the journey of making your movie from the moment where something clicked and you're like, I want to explore this idea until today, are there any specific memories, learning lessons, like scary things that pop up like that are highlighted in your journey? You look like you have.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go first. So I have been on set so many times directing commercials. And so like I felt really comfortable on set with the troubles that would arise with like my actors or locations and stuff. And I felt like I knew how to get a performance, So I was really confident going into that. I was, my learning happened in the edit room. And like there's a sense of dread and panic when you cut a feature that like I wasn't ready for, you know what I mean? It's like you cutting a short, in like 4 days, if the short's gonna work or not. Or if you're cutting a spot, like a 90-second commercial, it's like 3 days in the edit. You're like, okay, there's a few ways we can work this. But like a movie, man, my like editor had to be my therapist and just really walk me off the cliff, a lot. Because I was like, fudge. It's like, why are these scenes working? And then I put them together and like the movie's not working. And we were like, well, dude, you don't even know what the movie is yet. So that, for me, that was like my heart of darkness, was figuring out that like this, cutting a feature is different than anything you'll ever do if all you've done is short form. You know what I mean? And just like keeping the faith, I would say for me, it was like 6 weeks in, I started to glimpse what the movie could be. You know what I mean? I cut, because I left and went and did commercials and kind of like kept funding the movie with my partner. We cut for like 10 months. And I'm so grateful because it was like such a journey. And so that part, like also editing, so fun, so great. You don't have a 6-year-old on set that's like tired of being there, and you don't lose locations, and you're just like, what do you want to eat, man? Like, should we walk out and get food? And I cut this picture in New York, and I'm not from New York, and that was like so electric for me. I mean, I've spent, tons of time in New York, but like just stepping out of the edit bay and walking in New York City and just being like, I'm like cutting a movie here, like an indie movie. There's like so many people have done that, but it's like so electric. And I watched a ton of movies in post, and I refused to watch anything in prep or production. So I didn't carry it to set with me. But like that, also cutting and then going to like a movie at night, oh, so great.
Anyone else says?
I mean, like, I want to talk to you because
we were
both
talking a little bit.
We both acted and directed our films,
Yeah.
and that is crazy.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
We were talking about how we actually had kind of different experiences, but then maybe similar. Where in the edit, like for me, watching myself was. It was ego death. Like I died there. Like I was like, who is that? They're ugly. Like, who chose them as the lead? Like, why would you do that? And then, like, 3 weeks in, my editor was like, yo, like, what? And I was like, okay, we're going to just look at it as a different person. And then finally, I was like, okay, I can see the film. But that was a challenge. That was, like, my emotional sort of, like, rock bottom.
Was it where in the edit process was the rock bottom? Like, early?
It was,
the
like...
whole thing?
No. I mean, I had the best editors in the world. Like Alex O'Flynn and Randy Atkins saved my fucking life. And it was like watching me and watching the scenes I was in and being like, no, because it's my face. And I'm like, well, my face doesn't look like... It was just like my brain couldn't stop. It was like all me. And then finally it was like, hold on, this is like not... This is like too embarrassing, like to be so worried about myself. And then probably like a month in, it was kind of just like, okay, just, you look awful, so just focus on the film. And then it was okay. And then it was like, okay, what about this isn't working? Where in the story, like, I think in the edit, like similarly, I learned so much about how like some of the moments in the script that you shoot and you're like, this is the fucking film. Like you get to the edit and then you're like, this does not help me tell the story I wanted to tell. Like this actually is a roadblock emotionally to the story I'm telling. And even though as one scene, it lives in a beautiful place in my head, the reality of what I'm seeing is this is dampening the feeling of my film. So like a million things in post because you finally have the time. Like you have the time to see what you made. And so I think post was like the most devastating and the most like sort of rising from the ashes vibe. I'm still sort of like trying to rise, but yeah.
I think similar to Ava Cole, post was the most difficult part of the process for me, but for sort of a different reason. Like I think we were sprinting towards this deadline of like
you did not get 10 months to cut your picture.
We did not get
how many months? When did you start?
We started August 30th, I think, editing, like end of August. So basically, in order to get a cut ready for Sundance, we did like a couple weeks of 7 day weeks in a row. So it was just like it was like me and my editor in her office in Bushwick, and just like, like 10 hours every day or whatever. And so it felt like, and with production, it's like you're running on adrenaline. It's like, yes, the days are long, it's like a lot, but like you're running on adrenaline, and you're so present, you're so in the moment. But I think like you get to post and you're like exhausted, and it's like, oh, I have to go clean up this mess that I made. And yeah, I think that was really, really difficult for me. I didn't so much have the issue of like, I had directed and acted in a couple of shorts. So I was used to sort of like seeing I have had that experience before, being like, oh my God, what, like, does my face really look like that? But I think this time around I was able to really separate myself, and just what you said, just be like, okay, yeah, like the fact, like,
it's like I chose this.
Yeah, exactly. And like I dyed my hair like a week after, so I like that was some sort of like me trying to like trick myself into being like, okay, these are like different people somehow. But post was hard. Post was really hard.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I think directing is such a interesting and weird job, because so much of the job is not what people think is the job, which is on set directing the actors. So much of it is before and after. And I just had this moment on the first day of production where I realized that, I'd shot one short film previously that didn't turn out very good, and I was there with like a huge cast and crew, and realized I have been a director for 5 days in my life, and now I have to do this movie. And so you get such little practice doing that job. So it's a lot of preparing and then just trusting yourself once you get there. And then, like you're talking about, finding the movie in the edit, and just making sure that you have a good team. So, yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of challenges along the way. I think just, very few resources during production, and also like very, we didn't have much prep time at all. So like, we got to New York, we all flew in from London, and we had about like 4 weeks to put it all together, like a feature film, and we didn't have a cast, we didn't have any locations, and then like, the way I like to cast is like quite crazy, and like, I'm like flying all over New York City. We went to like parks and beaches, and so doing a lot of street casting, and also like looking in kind of like the sort of traditional platforms like Backstage and Actors Access. But anyway, just like, and then the chemistry testing, so like all within the span of 4 weeks was just madness. But eventually we got to like principal, and everything was more or less okay. We lost an apartment. That was a big, which was our main location, due to like a roach infestation. Like we just started, we went in to prep it, and then like our production designer like moved the couch, and like a swarm of us. So we were just like, oh shit, what do we do? And then the exterminator, who
That's
came
the most
around.
New York story ever.
But also, it's probably really good production design. I'm like, right,
Yeah.
the space was probably amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was, part of me was just like, oh yeah, these people, they're from London, they're quite sensitive. I'm from the Bronx, like there's nothing. But then like the exterminator came, and he was just like, nah, you guys can't shoot here. They're like roach excrements like all over. Like this is like hazardous to your health. We were just like, really? But then he was just like, I live like 3 blocks down. I have a whole apartment. You guys can shoot in. And then we went to see it, and like the apartment was like perfect, like, and it was just like huge, and the whole crew could fit. It was so much better than like this original like place. But that was like a really memorable moment. And yeah, like post was also really difficult because we just didn't have money in the beginning. So like,
I feel like that's such a like New York indie filmmaking, like the exterminators. Like, yeah, you should.
Yeah. It was crazy.
We'll do a couple of speed round questions just so we can get some more knowledge out of you. Biggest mentor or cheerleader or support system during this process, and anything specific that this person left you with?
I have a best friend, and I'm very lucky for that. And
Best
she's
friend
here.
is in the audience.
Best friend is in the fucking audience, y'all.
Does the best friend want to raise their hand?
There she is. And she is like the best, and so much of the story and the love in the story is based on our love. And she also was there throughout my whole post process, like completely awesomely, and was my therapist every night. So best friends rock.
Incredible. Joel?
Yeah, like loads of mentors. I mean, I had the sort of privilege of having gone through the school, so there were just like a lot of like teachers and professors there that kind of basically shepherded us through this whole process. And also like people before the school, like it's just, I mean, it takes a village, right? And like super grateful to that village, especially like my partner, my rep, you know, like everybody's sort of like held my hand through this whole process. So I'm super grateful to them.
I'm going to go like my wife and my 18-year-old daughter, Sophia. And if I knew I needed to just, like, my wife hadn't, you heard me say, like, my wife hadn't seen the film until last night, but she had read the script and I would gut check her on some scenes. And that was like, you know, don't ever expect your wife to tell you the truth, but nonetheless, I trusted her, you know? And my daughter, though, my 18-year-old daughter, like, I knew if she would tell me, like, the scene is crappy, it doesn't work, or I could tell if she would emote, you know, things like that. So I'd pull her into my office and just be like, watch this scene for a second. Am I crazy? Is that good? And she'd be like, it's good. It's good, Dad. I was like, dope. Okay, well, I'm on the roll.
Beautiful.
Rachel was my rock throughout this whole process, up until like the day, I think it was the day that Sundance was being announced, and we were like in the mix, and I was like doing score and cut, like everything, you know, like so last minute, and I was like sitting at the bus stop waiting for the bus, and I'm like sobbing on the phone to her, being like, how am I gonna finish this movie? Like it's like yeah, so like up until like last week, you know, she's just been #1 cheerleader.
My husband also produced the film, and he did, I mean, everything. I think the crew kind of got used to Grant being around, and if there was anything random that needed to be done, it was a Grant job. So they would call him. I mean, he was cutting down branches off trees after we framed a shot and there was a branch in the way, or driving the boat around for all of our boat scenes, rigging the fake harpoon. I mean, he was doing everything. So yeah, thanks, Grant.
Before we turn it over for a Q&A, in just like a small 1 or 2 sentence thought, how do you feel like the person that you were when you first embarked on this journey is different from who you are today, and how did this film impact your personal journey? Whoever wants to start.
I can go first. I think just like the jump from short to feature is really hard, as we all know. But like, I think, you know, you go into a feature thinking like, I don't know, this is like, I guess my brain was like hardwired because I'd made so many shorts that like it would be similar, that things would take the same amount. It's like, and it just doesn't. Like, it's like obviously 4 or 5 times longer than like your typical short. And just like, even you can watch the film like as much as you could a short in a single day. Like at most you can watch it 1 time. So it's just like, you need that. So like, you know, that you cut your film so fast, that's crazy. Like, cause like, you know, like the bandwidth just wasn't there. So you just need a lot more time. And it makes sense why they take so long to sort of like set up and develop and you know, edit and things. But so I think in that way I've changed. I mean, I've changed in so many other ways, but like, that's like the main one. I'm just like, this is a beast. Like, you gotta really, and self-care is like along the way really important.
I feel like for me, this film was very much like an exercise in giving myself permission to, period, but like giving myself permission to like show parts of, because it's a personal, intimate story, like show parts of myself that I think or thought should not be shown, like parts of myself that I thought were too ugly or too weird, whatever, you know? So I feel like coming out on the other side, I feel like it's like I'm just in a space of like having given myself that permission and like inhabiting that so much more now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful for the friends that I made along the way and the collaborators. And, you know, we were all students together, but you really get to know people when you work on a film together. And I'm just so grateful. I mean, everyone's incredible. We have such a great turnout coming for the premiere. And these are people that, you know, I'm going to carry with me in future movies and throughout my career. So it's great to meet people on your first film that you just love and want to keep working with.
Eva.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, your question made me emotional because, my film is like about trying to heal, and so much of my healing process was through this film, and so I think, like, through different parts of the process of making the film, and I will forever be grateful to like having the medium of filmmaking to feel everything I've felt in the last year through. I think I've emerged very different, and I'm still figuring out in the ways I'm different. But I can feel like it's making a movie. I can't believe it. It's the coolest thing. It's the heist of the world. It's the best. Like, what the fuck, y'all? Like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we all are emanating this. It's just like gratitude, you know? It's one thing to make a movie. It's another thing to make a movie you're proud of. And then that can be enough. Like, that should be enough, right? But then somehow we got so lucky and blessed to now get to show the movie to people. So for me, man, I just feel so grateful. I feel more patient with myself. I feel more grace for like my frickin' idiosyncrasies and all that stuff. And I just feel grateful that like I made this movie, no offense to anybody on this stage, at 40, older than when I was at 30. I'm just such a different person. And I think what I wanted to give to the world is in that movie, and I don't know if it would have been there before.
I think your first movie comes at the right time, and it's just so happy that you all got the chance to tell your stories here. Just want to say thank you for taking some time to share some of yourselves with us, because this is kind of what Sundance is about and the magic that I think we all hear of. These are the people that are going to be feeding us great stories for decades to come. So I feel this is so special to have you all here the days before your premiere, in your case, fresh off of your world premiere. So thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Carlos and all of our filmmakers for joining us for today's conversation. And I should mention a special congratulations to our panelists Eva Victor for winning the Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award for her film Sorry Baby, which was recently picked up by A24, and to Joel Alfonso Vargas, whose film Mad Bills to Pay took home the next Special Jury Award for Ensemble Cast. But honestly, every filmmaker who gets their work into the Sundance Film Festival should be considered a winner. As I mentioned up top, this episode is part of Antigravity Academy's Satellite Sessions. Those are free monthly conversations with high-level individuals in film and TV, which make resources and information available to as many up-and-coming filmmakers as possible. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, be sure you are subscribed to Dolby Creator Talks. You can find links to our show on all the major podcasting platforms, including the video version on YouTube, in our show notes, where you can simply search for Dolby, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're curious to know more about what we do at Dolby Creator Lab, head on over to dolbycreatorlab.com. There you'll find information about all of our programs. You can subscribe to our mailing list, and you can access the entire library of episodes of this podcast, including all the other satellite sessions with Carlos that we've already released. Once again, these are brought to you in partnership with Antigravity Academy and CAPE, the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. If you'd like to learn more about those organizations, you can find information in our show notes, as always. Until next time, this is Dolby Creator Talks. I'm your host, Glenn Kaiser. Our producer and editor is Michael Coleman. Our executive producers are Amanda Schneider and Jack Ferry, with additional editing by Matt Nixon. And our production coordinator is Karen Marroquin. Thanks for joining us.